You check your bank account. The number is bigger than it was last year. You feel something. Relief, maybe. Pride, maybe. But if you're honest, you also feel confused. Because you didn't get here by chasing that number. You got here by becoming someone who could produce something the world was willing to pay for. The money showed up after. It was never the target. It was the receipt. This is the part almost nobody tells you when you start out. You think earning money is the goal. So you optimize for it directly. You chase a raise. You chase a side hustle. You chase a get-rich-quick idea you saw at 2 in the morning. And most of the time, it doesn't work. Not because you're lazy. Not because you're unlucky. But because you're solving the wrong problem. Let's rewind almost 100 years. In 1937, Napoleon Hill published a book called Think and Grow Rich, based on decades of interviews with some of the wealthiest men of his time. Here's the part people forget. The book isn't really about money at all. It's about a specific mental shift. The wealthiest people he studied weren't obsessed with dollars. They were obsessed with a problem worth solving, and the money followed as a side effect of solving it well. That idea sounds nice, but is it actually true or just motivational talk? Fast forward to 2012. Georgetown professor Cal Newport published a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. He studied people who ended up in fulfilling, high-paying careers, and he found something that broke the popular advice of follow your passion. Almost none of them started with passion. They started by getting rare and valuable at a skill. Newport calls this career capital. Once someone builds enough of it, they can trade it for autonomy, for interesting work, for impact. And money almost always comes along for the ride, because rare and valuable skills are, by definition, things other people can't easily replace. Notice the pattern already forming. Hill's tycoons and Newport's careerists arrived at wealth from 2 different centuries, using 2 different methods of study, and landed on the same mechanism. Skill and value creation come first. Money is downstream. Here's where it gets even more concrete. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors alive, has said publicly for decades that he would have made far less money if his only goal had been making money. What he actually did, obsessively for over 60 years, was study businesses. He read annual reports for fun. He evaluated management teams the way other people evaluate sports teams. Buffett's fortune isn't the result of wanting to be rich. It's the compounding result of getting extremely good at understanding value, and then simply letting time do the rest. So let's reconstruct what this actually looks like in a normal life, not a billionaire's life. Picture 2 people starting the exact same entry-level job on the exact same day. Same salary, same cubicle, same coffee machine. The first person spends every spare hour thinking about money. Which side hustle will blow up? Which crypto coin might 10x? Which trick might get them noticed for a raise? They're working hard, but they're working hard on the money itself, directly, like trying to grab smoke with your hands. The second person spends that same spare time getting better at the actual skill their job requires. Studying the industry, solving harder problems than they're asked to, building a small reputation for being the person who figures things out. 18 months later, the first person has tried 4 side hustles and has almost nothing to show for it, because none of them had enough time to compound. The second person gets promoted, not because they asked for it, but because they became someone the company couldn't afford to lose. The raise wasn't the goal. It was the byproduct of becoming genuinely valuable. This is the counterintuitive twist. Chasing money directly usually produces less money than chasing competence and letting money follow. It feels backwards because our culture is loud about the destination and silent about the mechanism. Every ad, every headline, every get-rich thread on social media points at the number. Almost none of them point at the boring, unglamorous process that actually produces the number. Think about compound interest for a second, since it's the cleanest metaphor for what's happening here. $1 invested today isn't valuable because of what it's worth today. It's valuable because of what it becomes after years of quietly growing, untouched. Skill works the same way. A skill you build today isn't valuable because of the $5 extra an hour it earns you right now. It's valuable because of what it becomes after years of quietly compounding into expertise, reputation, and options nobody can take away from you. Money chased directly behaves like a stock you panic sell at the first dip because you have no real foundation underneath it. Money earned as a byproduct of growth behaves like a long-term index fund. It's boring in the moment. It's extraordinary over a decade. There's a psychological reason this works, too. When money is the goal, every decision gets measured only in dollars, and that narrows your thinking. You start avoiding anything that doesn't pay immediately, even if it would make you dramatically more valuable in a year. But when growth is the goal and money is simply the scoreboard, you naturally say yes to harder problems, to learning in public, to relationships and skills that don't pay off for months, sometimes years. And those are precisely the things that produce outsized financial results later, because almost nobody else is patient enough to do them. This doesn't mean money doesn't matter. Rent is real. Bills are real. Nobody is telling you to ignore your bank account. What it means is that money works best as feedback, not as fuel. Feedback tells you whether you're becoming more valuable to the world. Fuel is supposed to be the thing that drives you every single day, and dollars make an unreliable fuel because the number moves slower than your motivation needs it to. So here's the mirror, back onto your actual life right now. If you've been staring at your income, frustrated that it isn't moving fast enough, ask a different question for the next 30 days. Not, how do I make more money this month? But what skill, relationship, or piece of value am I becoming known for? Track that instead. Get slightly better at the thing your work actually requires. Solve one problem nobody else on your team wants to touch. Build the kind of reputation that makes people think of you first when something hard needs to get done. You will feel, at times, like you're moving slower than the people chasing quick wins around you. That feeling is normal. It's also almost always temporary, and it's almost always backwards. The person quietly compounding skill for 2 years, while everyone else is chasing this month's trend, ends up in a completely different financial position by year 3. Not because they got lucky, because they built something the money had no choice but to follow. You check your bank account again a month from now. The number is bigger, but this time you understand exactly why. It was never the target. It was the receipt for who you became on the way there.